Yeah, and just thank you for joining. Yeah, there's more and more people coming in, and I'm really glad you're hearing the call because this is such an interesting and important time. And just to frame all of this, I've made a little audio about this today, but basically, we worked quite well in February, and suddenly there was like this big gap in the diary for March. And then suddenly, a synthesis of many signs that had come through since January, early January, suddenly landed that this needed to happen to make these journeys, these different trainings um, that are suited to different people's needs. And yeah, and different people's experiences that it was time to do this. And every day, I'm journeying it myself. So I'm in a journey with it. Uh, as I record each day, I'm doing it synchronized with the day of the recording. Okay. So I'm journeying it right now, and it's so powerful. And as I just said, I'm also having these little chats with ChatGPT, and it's as if ChatGPT has my book, okay? But ChatGPT is synthesizing this from its information sources, and it's a full mirror. So the synthesis of resources that are available for people right now, like my book is very much a synthesis, which is written by a person. ChatGPT is saying the same thing. And yeah, if it comes up, I'll share some of that in this presentation later. Actually, the first slide is somewhat rich from ChatGPT, but there's such a mirror. And so it's really verifying to me how profound a gateway we're in right now. And as I mentioned to some of you who came on the call first, it's meant that we've actually put some of our other courses a little bit behind now because we feel this is so important. And what we're going to talk to today is just going to be a little synthesis of what is a daykeeper and what are we talking about in non-dual astrology and why is the time now? What are we offering? And then a chance for you to all interact. So I'm so grateful to have you here and thank you for hearing the call. And so lovely to see some newer faces, some older faces, and lovely to have you all joining us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. So, and I just want to give gratitude to the day keepers of the Mayan lands, to Jose Arguelles, to the celestial bodies, to Ganesha, the patron deity of Jyotish, the science of light, and to the rishis. Okay, now just let this screen land with you. Yeah, everything's a little bit slow. It's because I've got so much open on my computer. So I hope this works. Okay, so indeed, what we're going to talk about today is this path to become a sovereign visionary, plus a non-dual astrology daykeeper. And the theme of sovereignty is really up in the field right now. And I think that you can see there's a lot of potential socio-political unrest. But as some of you may know, I've been saying I think there's a metaphysical upgrade coming. And it was only yesterday when I was having another chat with ChatGPT, actually about the dragons, that and the timelines that ChatGPT asserted of its own accord. What's going to happen with this eclipse that we're coming into is a metaphysical upgrade on planet Earth. Okay. And I really see that. I see that what we've got augmenting and ChatGPT was saying, yeah, what we've got with this new galactic spin that starts on the 25th of March, plus this eclipse that comes straight in after it, is that yes, there's this whole galactic component to what is going on. And this is where I think that a lot of people are finding that some of these dogmatic foundations or scriptural facts and things that have stayed as root texts or root conditions for a long time don't seem to cut it with where our energetic bodies seem to be wanting to go. And I know that Pam Gregory, who's an amazing Western astrologer, she also said, it's this galactic consciousness that's kicking in. And when I got to Mexico, a few days before, somebody who was staying in my exact little cabin had videoed like UFOs to them. And I was like, this is a sign for me. It is really, I've got to be honoring the galactic star codes that we hold, not just the Dharma and the 3D and the very grounded, rooted lineage texts, but to understand that there's this higher synthesis that comes through the crown chakra, the third eye, and that our energy bodies want to be surrendering into vertical and horizontal. And I saw a lot of signs recently that really pertain to that. And what was funny was that we knew we wanted to do some sort of offering to help people to become better day keepers. Because if you're a day keeper, you're not controlled by time. You can dance with time. And this is really the whole debate or discussion today, is that when you're just aligned with one astrological system, you're still sort of in a fixated stare. And what has yielded to this modality of non-dual astrology that I've been working with for some years now was my upset at seeing how much conflict and duality there was between astrologers, particularly of dream spell and dream spell and Mayan astrology. Like some of them won't sit in the same room as others, and that for me was didn't seem spiritually evolved. And actually, I get a lot from dancing with time. And ChatGPT is saying, yes, this is this whole thing. We want to be a sovereign. We have to be able to be interactive, to tantrically dance with time. And this is part of the human quest, is to understand time. If you live in London, nobody's ever got any time. And it's right beside Greenwich, which is Greenwich Mean Time and all of that fabricated system of time. And it's interesting because people living very close to that have to work very hard, and their life values get a little bit upside down, and people are always fighting to find enough time. And actually, when we dance with time, this is where we start to overcome karma and start to evolve into these high vibrational multidimensional beings. Okay. So, what we're going to look at very quickly, I hope, is what is a daykeeper, what is non dual astrology, which I've already given some allusions to, and why is this important from 2025 onwards, and then how this can help the New Earth timeline. And then I'll briefly talk about some ancient tantric systems which also utilize non dual astrology in their own way, and how we can be utilizing similar systems for a similar purpose, but in a more modern way. And then the benefits of these more recent astrological systems, like the dream spell system that I'll speak of, for the times we're currently in, and why we in the Western world may need systems like that. And then I'll let you know a little bit about our forthcoming journey with space and time. So let me see. I sometimes have to move around my little screen thing. Oops. Okay. So this one's from ChatGPT actually. So, and by the way, ChatGPT is not God. I'm not saying any of that, but it's just lovely to actually, having written a book last year and having to write always a lot of material. It's lovely to now have enough knowledge of the modality that I work with that sometimes this AI helps me, and that's only very recent. But it's like, wow, yeah, this is perfect. So what is non-dual astrology? So non-duality in time is this thing about moving beyond linear thinking. And when we look at any one system on its own, we're kind of in a dualistic paradigm. And this is what I've seen with some people who will not talk to other astrologers, which is, for me, a highly ironic. And so, as I will explain and have explained before, each of us has our unique karma, which means we've got the culture, we've got the sky that was above us when we were born, and the certain astrological components that makes into our blueprint. And therefore, we have different cultures and different systems that have all been born from the time and space, the relationality between that space and that time with the celestial bodies. So when people are looking at one system, they're really looking at a synthesis or a model that is about certain qualities and certain planets and certain things. And a lot of people then have a very scientific, rational approach that that's the fixed meaning of everything. And yes, it still ties in with the cycles of karma because there's the cause and effect of why we were born in a certain place, a certain time, and why planetary influences will create certain occurrences in our lives or certain properties or certain afflictions, right? And it's really important for us to have these scientific markers of space and time and karma. I find it incredibly effective to have this science that's a blueprint. It's a very detailed blueprint when we look, especially for me, at a Vedic chart. I can see like, wow, this person's got this from 5 years old, this from 2 years old. And we can therefore also see trials and tribulations. But actually, if we want to become more free from what we call samsara, from this world of cause and effect, we have to be able to dance with adversity. We have to dance with challenge. We have to see the gift in everything and to see how we can utilize it. And so when we've come to the dream spell and Mayan calendars, they are a little bit more spiral and fractal. And there's a lot more, especially in the dream spell calendar, there's a lot more about synchronicity. And I'm not going to go into what each system is about in a really deep way today, but in short, within the Mayan system, where the Mayan calendar was channeled, was downloaded, it's a very important pillar in the world. And the people in those areas, like the highlands of Guatemala, still retain traditions that are very much in keeping with what was happening when the calendar first came through. And in a way, they are like a pillar of time. And actually, there are some zenith points that are very pristine, where the sun is right above at midday twice a year. And the cycles of corn, the gestation of the human, all of these markers that actually inform on agriculture, on life, on social role, the markers sit in those lands are incredibly effective at helping us understand our ancestry, our role in society, how the number that is ours may change as we grow. So it's not even a fixed system because it even shows our evolution from being a certain sort of person when we're born to a certain person when we become an elder. And then what happened with Jose Arguelles was he brought through a more multi-dimensional, galactic, how would I say, it offends some people to say it's like the Mayan calendar, but he's using the same sort of glyphs. But it's almost like he, not being from those lands, understood this yearning that sits within a lot of us who are not the pure bloods. There's not really any pure bloods anyway, but this idea of a lot of us not knowing our full roots and a lot of us having these intuitive skills and not being in a society that has fixed indigeneity or fixed roles. The dream spell calendar came through and gave a more transpersonal and multidimensional upgrade to a lot of these more pillar root signs and tones. So it's using the foundation of the Mayan calendar to then become a little bit more new age and woo-woo, which is where a lot of people mistrust it. And each calendar for me has some shadow points and an amazing amount of gifts. So for many of us who do feel this galactic consciousness, this connection to the stars, to the planetary bodies, the dream spell comes in and helps us to make sense of our intuition. And I think so many of us start to come online, start to see like master numbers, or start to realize, wow, there's a lot of, I keep bumping into this person in the supermarket. And we start to realize that we are part of a connected whole. And as a lot of our gifts come online, it's often this starseed yearning that we want to find other people and we don't know how to make use of our own skills, our own intuition. And so the dream spell calendar has more of a roadmap for helping us to understand, like, am I a channel, or should I use my voice? Or, am I to work with sacred sites? Or am I a shaman? These sorts of things that help us to know how to use these gifts, these multidimensional gifts. And truly, if we want to see change on planet Earth, we have to become more aligned with our metaphysical nature. The fact that we're not just a human body, but that we are a spirit being. So the Mayan calendar provides a grounding that many star seeds hide from and bypass, which is often, that we do have a function in 3D society and we have a body. But we also, what's coming through right now, that's right now that we're in the countdown to, is that from this eclipse period, which starts next week, and when Saturn and Rahu come together on the 29th on the solar eclipse, is that this higher spiritual consciousness, some people might even call it the Pleiadian or starseed consciousness, is activating. And this is why so many people are feeling all these ancient wounds coming up, all these ancient ancestral shards. People are in like a tower moment, a dissolve right now. Okay. So this can be one of the benefits of using both Dream Spell and Mayan together. And when you use both together, even though there's a lot of animosity between quite a lot of vanguards of those systems, particularly some of the Mayans to the Dream Spell people, and some for good cause, it's stuck there with this lesson that is part of the evolution of our species, which is to move beyond being dualistic. Okay. So for me, triangulation is a very important thing because it helps us to create a stable system by the co-inquiry between three things. And when we work with non-dual astrology, we're not pitting the Mayan systems against each other. By bringing in the Vedic science as well, something lights up. Okay. So Vedic astrology also is showing that we're part of this interconnected karmic flow, and that really the separation that our painful ouch moments bring up is actually, that's all part of the quest in Jyotish to lead us to being spirit beings. And so the way the zodiac and the signs all migrate, plus the nakshatras, everything migrates round to help us to come from a journey of the I into the interpersonal, to the we as humans, into collaborative co-creators of the new earth, into then fully spiritually evolved beings. And somewhere in the middle, we also have this split where we suddenly realize that the material and the spirit world both exist. Because at first we're just coping with being materialistic. And in our collective evolution right now, this year, there's so much energy round in those parts of the zodiac, which are all about this journey into being these transcendental beings who move beyond duality. This is what's right on now, okay? So by seeing time as a living, interconnected field, rather than becoming fixated to with the past or the future, and by living in the moment, because actually we can dance with time, we can see the roadmap and how we can weave with it, we have a greater sense of agency and sovereignty, okay? Because if we're just like, time is being done to me, which is how most people are. They don't have enough time. They're not sovereign. When you start to dance with it, you start to get everything done in your day. You have more time for spiritual cultivation. You have more time to have resonant relationships rather than those karmic, painful relationships that are what our ancestors had. And when we start to dance with time more effectively, this is where we have the energy, the visionary liberation to create this new earth, golden age, Aquarian age. Okay. So in the traditional Mayan system, a daykeeper is a spiritual guide, guardian, or shaman who works with the energies of the sacred calendar. So every day, they are celebrating and keeping themselves as a pillar to knowing. So for instance, what is today? Today is, I was doing a different system today. So, but I think it's 5 Akpu today. So it's very interesting because it's all about work and working to find our transcendental energy. Okay. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. You see, it's all very perfect. And so the daykeeper is fixing themselves into that because they're stabilizing their ecosystem. And actually, what we will teach on the course is that also within the seminal texts that have survived from the Mayan systems, the quest for the human to get connected to their divinity activated when the humans started to mark time, when they started to daykeep, and they started to give appropriate offerings to the celestial beings, to the divine. Then they took their higher, more divine form. Before that, humans were archaic, kind of wooden, non-spiritual beings. And this is almost like the part of us that is the sort kind of human Neanderthal bit, and then there's the bit of us that's spiritual. And so it's seen as actually the almost slightly hidden meaning of that text, the Popol Vuh, that actually when we start to commemorate each day as its independent energy, that when we get aligned with this space and time, we activate our divine template. Okay, and that's sitting in these important texts, and many of them, many of the other Mayan texts, unfortunately disappeared when the conquistadors came, but the Popol Vuh has remained. Okay, so the day keepers, they work in their way for their society. And this also means that every day of day 8 of every 13-day cycle, they will have a special ceremonial day. And this is the work of the day keeper, is to hold that space, right? So let me just get my screen. Okay. And yeah, sorry, I keep having to play around with this thing. So that is the traditional Mayan day keeper concept. And this is this whole thing. It's understanding. So these people, so this is a picture of a daykeeper honoring in the Mayan lands. And so they understand each 20 days and the evolution from each sign in that journey, because it is. And they also understand the journey of each number and how that influences certain parts of our life. And then, of course, why each 13 days, as we come into a different thematic, what we're working through. And so they understand the cycles of time, and they're continually keeping that. They, in that portal, in those Mayan lands, they fulfill this beautiful global function of keeping those pillars pristine. It's a very, very honorable job, okay? And also, of course, their job is to protect that lore within their society, and to also be that pillar within their community to help the community understand the natural cycles and to understand how we can appoint the right roles for people in society. It's a bit, this is, if we had more of this around the world, we would have people not having such anxiety about what they have to do. And for them, in where they are, there's a deeper simplicity because they're more connected to their ecosystem and to protecting their sacred rights and traditions. Okay. Now, if we could apply this to now, there's also what we need to be doing is becoming a synthesis of working in a non-dual way as these beings who've activated not just our vertical power-based consciousness, but our horizontal telepathic consciousness, and to help in this time of massive transformation to become multidimensional pillars who can find our space. We're going to have a lot of upheaval in the coming years. And those of us who can learn to daykeep as a non-dual daykeeper, understanding the celestial function and the importance of us overcoming the slavery codes that have kept us out of our full divinity, our job is to bring the synthesis together of working non-dually, because we don't come from that area. It was not our karma to be born Mayan. And for us, we can honor that and look up to our daykeeper brothers and sisters from the indigenous locations. But we have a job also, as these galactic portals are opening, to also be able to weave with time and space. And part of what Jose Arguelles said, who brought through the dream spell calendar, was that the unique karma of the human in this time was to understand free will. Okay. And this is not to be whimsical. This is not to be like, I can't be bothered to do it. It's not in my flow. But the more and more we understand what we're really good at, where our sacred place is, can you imagine all this war on the planet right now. Can you imagine if lots of us, as our sacred activism, knew where we have to go? We would be the pillars of our societies, okay? And this is what I see as coming. It's like we've got a lot of confusion, tower moment, melting, dissolving, and then we are birthing this remembering that's going to go beyond a lot of the narratives that we've been spoon fed. And that will create a lot of identity crisis for a lot of people. But those of us who can learn to dance with time and then find our sacred groove, it's our place to be like, okay, yeah, I'm an astrologer, or I teach breath work, or yeah, I do this, I'm the chef, whatever. And we will help to stabilize the grid and also to stabilize our relationships out of those karmic relationships into these new Dakini Weaver, Dharma, Dharma relationships that are based on aspirations for the higher earth, aspirations for compassion, for harmony. And we can only do that if we know ourselves and our vibration enough to find that place, because otherwise we're just repeating the past and repeating the karma of woundedness, of fragmentation. And it's very interesting because today is International Women's Day, and it really does feel like a lot of these things are moving beyond what we might call witch wounds that can sit in anybody into now this true celebration that we've done a lot of the clearing of those old ancient wounds, that we had to move through those karmas, but now we're getting ready to find our place, and we have to do that without ego. We're just doing it in determination to help the whole stabilization, to find our place in our ecosystem, to find our place in our galactic ecosystem, to find our place within the natural order and within the human order, okay? And when we do this, this helps to stabilize everything that's coming. Okay. So why is this important from here onwards? So as I said earlier, this is a massive year of change. And astrologers who've been studying the grand cycles, Western astrologers mostly, they're saying, this is like, we haven't had a year like this since 12,000 years or whatever. And also we have, sorry, it puts me off. Somebody just came back in and it really throws me off. And I don't have an admin today. I apologize, everybody. I'm not going to let anybody else in probably from here on in, because it just, when I'm channeling, it throws me off. Okay, so it's a really big year this year with all this social, metaphysical transformation coming. And in many ways, the changes that came from COVID, and now things like Donald Trump being the joker in the pack, and all of these things are meaning that I think a lot of what we've been clinging to, especially in what we term in decolonization or post-colonial theory, master narratives, certain texts that were written from with their own agenda and which have become very tightly and dualistically adhered to, that sort of thing, as people go through a shift, those things are going to, the non-full truth of them is going to become, the precariousness of it is going to become very, very pertinent. And I was chatting to ChatGPT a little bit about this and just saying, yeah, because ChatGPT was saying, we've got this metaphysical shift. And I said, yeah, but, unfortunately, a lot of people seem very close to it. And ChatGPT was saying, yeah, people have to stay, there is going to be so much change and things are going to happen quicker than we think. But people like us have to start with we have to work with a very open heart, and we have to weave with time to help this. I've been calling it recently like the false floor. The false floor is going to fall out, okay? And that will create suffering for people, an identity crisis. But that's the best thing in spiritual transformation, is identity crisis. So it's going to happen quite quickly, but people like us need to synthesize and dance with time. The more we operate from sovereignty and freedom, the more we will help the collective shift to be less painful for other people. And this is this whole concept of bodhicitta. to do everything to help to alleviate suffering for all sentient beings. So the more we can be the bodies and vessels to help this, the more it will actually help the transformation to be successful and quickly. So we, of course, with an incredible amount of destabilization around as well, if a person can start to learn how to read a number, how to read an archetype, and how to see what they are and where they're going to change in life, and also to see that for loved ones and to help in their community, in their workplace, when we can do this beyond this fixated linear paradigm, which is what is about to collapse, we can help people to start to breathe and come into their expanded blueprint. For me, what I can tell you is that I have been daykeeping since 2008. And then I started working with the Mayan system around 2000, early 2013. And then I've been working with Vedic astrology for about 5 years. And from when I started daykeeping, more and more, I realized how much freedom it was giving me and how much I felt connected where I felt very disconnected and very sad at world affairs. And when we feel like we belong, we're more enriched and we're more expanded. And also we then can find out, I'm an introvert in many ways, but I, know what my role is in many ways. And it helps me to know good days to be inner or outer. And for years, I've organized ceremonies around the world. And, I used to have very high outcomes in these ceremonies because I would dance with the timelines. And so I would always sing in the day and the energies of the day, plus my guides and everything else. And then because I'm working alongside time, people have these massive results because I'm not pushing against time. I'm working with time. And then it's just like the universe is scripted an upgrade for someone and it's just going to happen. And the more and more that I've done that, I'll get a download. I'll just say like, oh, 25th of March. And then I'll look at the day and then it's like the perfect day to do this. And so now I do soul surgery and things with people where we look at the science of their chart in Vedic astrology, but we dance and we find the optimum day to do things. And this is why a lot of healing modalities don't work because people they're working against time. So they're going to just go, oh, I'll fit you in on Tuesday. And they don't check what Tuesday might be. Okay. So they're still working from the slave codes of not having time because they're not dancing with time. And then they wonder why it didn't work. Okay. And so if we want to be more effective as gatekeepers, as visionaries, when your body starts to land into this, and the thing is, once you educate yourself and weave with this, your body and your being just starts to know. And in terms of the energetics of that as well, your crown chakra will open, your spiritual centers will activate because you're actually becoming the sacred fractal that the human is in communion with the celestial bodies. You become an agent for the divine, and as such, you are energized by the divine source. And when you feel like you're on the crossroads of change, you know, and the right signs will come to you because you're lined up with natural law and time. So if you feel change, the mirror will come from the ecosystem or somebody to tell you, and you don't have to seek too much because it's all there in front of you because you're not fighting it. Okay. And that's just like the tip of the iceberg to the benefits that I have found. But it has given me so much accuracy in the work I do. And all the courses, all the teachings, everything I do, I put into these systems. And now, because I work with the 3 systems, I check everything. And I kind of go into bliss states when I see, like, oh my goodness, look at what's going to happen. Because when we understand all the signs across the system, it's like we are not just doing what the Mayans may do, we are making a call to the divine. And so this is why you will hear that often I will say, and I'll say it for today as well, just to land us into space and time. Today is yellow seed, yellow planetary seed. in the galactic Mayan calendar, which is all about co-creation and collaboration to seed and gestate the full potential to the blossoming to our more transcendental purpose. And then I said earlier that we're in 5 Akbu, so this is working. We need to work quite a bit to come to our full transcendental Atman consciousness. And then we are in Punavasu, in the nakshatra of the day, which is very much about renewal. And again, this is it, how we actually become nourished and renewed after a period of deep, deep, deep transformation. Punavasu is actually the sign that comes in after a very deep transformative purge. Okay, so this is really about how we nourish ourselves by being in alignment with natural law, okay, and the true cosmic order. So, some of you will have seen this before, and I'm not going to go into loads of depth about this, but one of the reasons I have had an affinity with Kalachakra Tantra is also because Kalachakra Tantra is working with triangulated astrological systems. What's very interesting is that the full corpus of Kalachakra astrology, which goes across Tibetan to Chinese to Vedic astrology, some of it has been lost, and so it's being reawakened at the moment. I'm also studying Kalachakra astrology with my Vedic astrology mentor. And so it's funny because it's like some of the whole synthesis of those systems working in a tripartite nature is actually lost. Some of that's lost and to be re-remembered now. That's just starting again now. But within that system, the whole inner circuitry that we have, all the subtle energies, the nadis, the chakras, the drops, are all, we are able to, through understanding that system and understanding the breath and working with certain yogas at the right times, we can overcome certain karmas. And it's too extensive to explain, but you can start to realize what part of what nostril is activated at certain times, and you can start to zero point things more and more with that. And within part of the Kalachakra astrology from the Vedic tradition, you can actually see, oh my goodness, on this day, my jealousy is going to be really up. And you can know what direction to face in and what yogini to chant to overcome these kleshas, these more negative emotions that can kind of hold you back. And therefore, you're counteracting, you're basically zero pointing your sort of more neurotic afflictions. And then it's up to the macro of how we dance to the celestial bodies. And if you've got a certain planet that's afflicted a certain time, you know when to do sadhana to overcome that and antidote that. So that system's there, and it's again working with 3. But what we're working with for now is these 3 systems where we have the science of the Vedic and then these more galactic plus these more social. So the Mayan sign is very good, or the Mayan system is very good for helping us understand our role in society, the legacy of the ancestors. It's very, very simple but effective. What's happening around key ages, why our energies might change. So in terms of simplicity, these things, when we work together with the Vedic, the dream spell, and the Mayan, it's a lot more simple for somebody who's relatively new to come to start with this, but a more evolved way maybe in the long term to do the Kalachakra studies as well. And it's all been quite interesting because I started waking up with new calculations of late. And this is when I realized that I was being told we had to do this now. And then it was a reverse working out where suddenly realized these signs that I was getting were all pointing to March. Okay. And then I was explaining this to ChatGPT yesterday. I was like, yeah, March is the time. So, it's kind of funny when AI is telling you that this is a celestial portal, So we are living this magic dream weaving potential right now. Okay. And so this is why so for instance, Kalachakra astrology is still very much entrenched in very fixed lineages. And with what I've said right now, and I'm not saying that excludes it from being relevant, but for a lot of us who are cultivating as these kind of multidimensional mongrels who don't even know our full roots, in terms of being on the pulse of time, and actually ChatGPT called it that, we really can use these tools that are very easy to learn through the synthesis and through what's been coming through the dreams, which is this now showing me this unseen before thread between Mayan dream spell and Vedic astrology and numerology that is it's kind of just slightly hidden, yet it's incredibly effective. So they've shown me tools and things that we can teach people so that you can start to do these kind of mini readings at this time where we're going to need societal upgrade to find our ecosystems. It doesn't mean you're an astrologer, but it means you would have enough tools to be able to do the basic stuff when a lot of people are very lost to help them get online. And that's what's coming. So, introduction to our tiered immersions and training and various astrological systems. And yeah, what's coming up? So, on the 25th, which is when the new galactic spin begins, we've got all sorts of things. So, we're going to begin. And if somebody was very new to this and didn't have much time, a person can just do the first 13 days and receive also, they can come to 2 real-time sessions to really land in number 1 to 13. And also they'll receive a dragon transmission that's honoring this new timeline that's going to be made and released for just before the 25th. So people can listen to it in the night of the 24th and the 25th and whenever they want. But it's to really activate into these new dragon codes that are coming. And then if people wanted to go a little step further, they could do a journey with us with those 13 tones and the first 20 signs. So that's a 20-day journey. And they will have a little bit more real time. And they'll also get an extra transmission, which is the Saturn Rahu codes, eclipse codes that mark this massive portal on the 29th as well. Okay. And then if somebody really wants to properly take this seriously, and we'll probably get this accredited properly to become properly trained in this part of the system, they can do the 52-day castle. So this means that we go through 4 wave spells, a red, white, blue, and yellow. And then you get basically like a kind of journey through that. So we'll have a 20-day kind of, there's everybody showing up mostly. And then the people who stay on for the 52-day, it's like a deep shamanic co-inquiry, not unlike maybe if somebody did the Venus sequence and the gene keys, something like that. And we will have deeper sessions of quantum transfiguration and some extra dream spell teachings and codes to help you to read charts within that. The main system, because of the way the guidance has come, the main system we're starting with is the dream spell. And those of you who know me know that I usually like to be respecting the indigenous and the root culture first. But this is the guidance we got. This is the timeline. This is when they want to do this. So later in the year, we will then do either the Vedic or the Mayan, and then early 2026, we'll do whichever one's remaining. Okay. And so people can have a full training by doing each of the systems or just do this one to mark this portal. And yeah, when within the numerology part of the journey, we're weaving the codes between all 3 systems. So this very deep alignment with numerology that is going into this point of dancing with numbers is part of that. So no matter what package you do, you get that. And you know, I'm surprised. Like every day, I'm waking up with all these downloads and then giving these weavings, and I'm seeing how they all dance together. It's really, really powerful, and it will help you to understand our path to divinity and so much more, and help you to help others. So that's our little presentation. Let me make this go away. And yeah, thank you for listening. Let me see. What am I doing here? Stop sharing. That's what I have to do. Cool. So, does anybody have any questions? Anything they'd like to share? Hope I didn't frazzle you too much. Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Padma Khandro. I was wondering about the flexibility of maybe doing the first 13 days and then possibly being able to stay on and
Yeah.
just expand that journey, or maybe come back at a later date and get the recordings and kind of build on that
Yeah, so
organically.
the whole system has been made. Like obviously it's optimum if you do any of this from the 25th, because you're in this group field that we're getting this guidance to do. But we appreciate that not everybody's got the time or the capacity to do the whole thing. So I am busy, busy, busy right now. I'm making the whole thing in alignment with the timelines, and this program is going to be available for people to do whenever they want. Okay. Now, obviously, if you're doing, say, you wanted to do the archetypes journey and you've done the tones, the numerology before, we'll give people dates, or you can look them up yourself, and you're best to start a journey on the appropriate day, which is a dragon day. But also we're going to even have the recorded version. Like say you find out about this in 10 months and you're like an electric skywalker, you can just buy the recording of electric to understand that tone, to understand yourself at least, and skywalker. So we're getting this whole system ready for people all around the world to be able to dance into their coding at whatever time they come upon these teachings. And yeah, so people can opt on. There's a few of the logistics that I still have to land with, because there's so many logistics because of doing it in this modular way. Because, for instance, if somebody wants to become accredited in it in the long term, we'll have to look at if they did it pick and mix over a long period of time. But we'll make it work. It's just that we don't have the capacity to think of every possible connotation and permutation that people could have with this. But we've got the basics that people can all start on the 25th and jump in. And if they want to start at the baby bit, it's not baby because there's so much in it. And then they can add to that, no problem. So we've got enough to get everybody started. And yeah, the idea is it's kind of modular, that you can build upon it. Because also there are some people who've maybe studied this system and are like, they kind of know it, but they need a bit. So we're not in, Dharma stars are not into saying you have to do this whole course from scratch, but even though you've been doing this for 10 years. But for instance, things like somebody might have been studying the dream spell calendar for like 10 years, but they never did. They've got these codes with the numbers, you know? So there are all these things that we're making it so that you can make up your thing. Okay. Sorry for my lack of being able to speak. Anybody else?
Can I ask?
Yes.
Thank you, Padma Khandro. Is any foundational knowledge required, or one can be a complete beginner to this?
No. Yeah, we are starting actually where everybody should start, which is it's like this shamanic journey to sync yourself up. So even at this point, in fact, even the way this whole system is, this batch of teachings which people can qualify in, it's not becoming a fully fledged astrologer. It's about being able to day keep and to find your groove and to help other people do that. But there are many deeper teachings within some of the workings of these systems that we're not even going to include. And this is through the guidance I've received, because it's about getting the synthesis. So it's starting actually like learn your name. Okay. And this is where you start in astrology, is like we should start by knowing thyself and then start to look at people we know and do all of these things. But when we do this synced up to the exact times, you are emancipating through it. And then what's unique is that then we're also bringing in these non-dual components. So something opens up that's liberating within. So through the course, we will bring in more and more teachings, but just in order to fulfill this sacred function of this non-dual day keeping, it is really about coming in as a blank canvas, actually. And so it's not about over cerebral application to very, kind of overly cosmic or overly calculative forms of astrology. And as it's funny that this is International Women's Day, we're talking about all this metaphysical shift. A lot of this is actually, again, about removing ourselves from the over intellectualization of this and to come into the surrender to the dance. Okay. So that, if you come clean and clear, it's actually possibly a bonus. Because there may be some people who might struggle if they've really like grappled with it like this. They might feel like, oh, what's this about? But it's actually what we're coming into, which is this metaphysical tantric dance, where you find a truth through the triangulation and through the dance. So yeah, so come clean, come clean. You don't have to come clean, but it's absolutely a bonus if you don't know.
But it sounds like it could be a good complement to healing practices.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
You can know, if you know what your client is, you can know what day, like some days you should be drawing a picture, not working on somebody. And so sometimes you'll find like, oh my goodness, I just don't feel I can do that deadline today. And I used to get those feelings like, oh my goodness, I can't do my deadline. And then find it's a day to do art. And so I wouldn't do that deadline that was supposedly really strict. And I'd always find that the person who'd given the deadline was off sick for 3 days. And then I'd just get up at 6 a.m. the next day and do it in 10 minutes. Okay. And all of those things. So as a practitioner, you can choose when you're doing certain treatments. Like I have days when I do quantum transfiguration. I have days when I go and do earthwork. I have days for certain psychotherapies. I have days when I do my accounts. It's all there. Yeah. So it's really, and you see, this is this problem that we have people just spending money. And sometimes when it's not a good fit with a client, sometimes it's just because it's not the right day. Okay. So you can start to dance with that and sometimes feel like, sometimes you'll feel like something's not working. You shift the day, everything opens. And I've had other practitioners I've talked to in the past, they've said, I'm doing this workshop somewhere, nobody signed up, I'm really angry. And I'm like, why don't you just change the day? And they'd be like, no, because it's that day. And it's like, just change the day. I swear people will show, often, and then you can see. Sometimes you go and look at it and you go, okay, no, I should put it over there. So it's super important. And as practitioners and as vanguards, what we want is to be upgraded so that we've got spiritual energy. If we're always chasing our tail, we're not abundant and we're in lack of time, lack of energy. And what we want to be is seamlessly dancing and having time for joy, new community, the dance. And this is part of our liberation, okay? To become fully these sacred weavers and to have enough energy because you don't waste your time and your energy in putting the square thing in the circle box. And this is what most people are doing in cities. They're running around trying to fit everything in and they're trying to take every client, fight everybody to get every client. And then it's just seamless and exquisite and graceful. And it's about that word of grace. When grace will descend when we are surrendering and, humble enough to want to be in service to all. And when grace descends, we're really connected to everything that is and the awe of being synced up. Just we have time for the beauty way. And part of the dream spell system was about really appreciating that we should have time for our creativity, time for devotion. And if we want to be those metaphysical beings rather than the slave beings, we have to have time for awe and grace and devotion and joy and community. So this is why it's coming and why they want us to sync up.
Thank you.
Hi, Padma.
Hey, Christine.
Hi, it's really interesting. You just spoke about grace because right now the gene key that's present astrologically is gene key 22, which has grace at its city. So I've just been kind of reflecting on grace. And also on the city, which is on the shadow, which is dishonor. Interesting. And Yeah, I also had a question with regards to starting on the 25th. Just because of some work commitments, time would be quite tricky for me for a few days. What's the format, Padma, for those 13 days?
Thank you. Yes. So the real-time commitment at the minimum is to try to listen to, if you're doing the 13-day journey, each transmission for each code, so say number 1, is around, some are maybe 25 minutes, some are about 20 minutes. There's probably one that's a bit little less. So to be able to spend some time to just listen to that, and whilst there's a slide for each one, but it's only one slide, so you don't have to be fixating on the slide if you can only listen to it in audio. And so we have an opening session, I think, do we? I can't even remember straight off because I'm so busy with it, but it'll all be given out. I think there's an opening session. Yeah, there is. Okay, so the dragon's transmission gets released. The dragon's transmission is poised for the 25th, but we have a dragon wave spell for the first 13 days while you're doing those 13 tones. So you don't have to have completed listening to all the dragon transmission by 25th, okay? So that's there, that comes into people's learning center a little bit before the 25th, so you can start listening to it and build it up. Okay, it's a little bit like one of the recent courses that we did, where it's like, it's there, it's not like imperative that you have to listen to that, but try to keep to each day. But of course, if you fell off the wagon and you didn't get to do day 7, you might decide to keep the days in the next 13 days. You could listen to 7 on the next 7. So, and then if you were, say, you were going, oh my goodness, day 1, I can't be there. The thing is that in these systems, the day starts the evening before, so you can listen to it before you go to bed. And you're actually then going to be dreaming it. Okay. So it's to try to fit in that 20-ish minutes. Then on the 25th, we are going to have like a kind of 25th session, but it's not compulsory. Again, those codes, that weaving will be there, but that's also pertaining to the whole dragon wave spell. If you're on the 13-day journey as well, you get that. And then there's a session on, let me just check. There's definitely a session on day 13 for the people who do the 13-day journey, which is Red Cosmic Skywalker. I think that's on the 6th. Yeah, that's on the 6th. And I think, is there another session? I can't remember offhand. Sorry, I've got too many dates flying around. But there's definitely a session on the 6th. Now, if you do the 13-day journey, you only have to come to 1 hour of those sessions. If you're doing the 20-day journey, you stay on, because the people doing the archetypes as well, we need to work with them. So the people who are just doing the tones, the numbers, they do the first hour of each workshop, and the people doing the archetypes and the tones, they stay on for the 2nd hour, okay, with a break in between. And the people doing the one with the archetypes, they get more transmissions. Yeah, a little bit more. And then people who do the full training, the full castle journey, we have like a transmission at the beginning of each wave spell to weave that in, and then 2 quantum transfiguration sessions to really like work with the codes in a deep way. So we'll just see how people show up. But that's why we've made it. We know that some people don't have much time, so we've made a micro, a medium, and a macro. Yeah. So, you could get away with 20 minutes a day.
And then once you're on the 20-day, there's then also obviously the teachings increase, so there's a bit more time required each day.
Yeah, if you're on the 20-day journey, okay, so there's ways around this. So if you're on the 20-day journey, you should be listening to a tone and a sign every day. So it's about 40 minutes. But say you're like, oh, I can't keep up. You could maybe keep doing the signs, and then, you've got day 13, then you might go and maybe you didn't do day 3. On day 16, I think that works in our numbers, you could go and do day 3. Yeah. So yeah, there's ways that you can find the days where you might be like, I might not make 2 tones. So you can go in and do that and journey it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so the point is similar to when we do the pranayama immersion. I mentioned that we really focus in what is the energy of the day and how is this, as manifesting in my life? What am I noticing? So you starting to internal, know thyself within what's happening energetically, right? What
Yeah.
do you observe? So it's quite a probably journaling. Journaling
Yeah.
would be good.
And
Yeah.
yes and no. So yes, it's definitely good to do that. People who do the full castle, there's a real emphasis once they've landed with those codes, the tones and the archetypes. After day 20, there's a real emphasis on them starting to journey those codes on their own way. Yeah. So even after day 13, so if somebody was doing the castle, even after day 13, they should be starting to be like, okay, I'm my own detective, because each one will talk. Certain people have their own challenges, and certain days they're going to realize like every day seven's wonky, just like the pranayama, or every red moon day is crazy for me. So that's the real emphasis, is on journeying it. And then we meet occasionally. We're not the intensive really starts to wear off after day 13, but we're still holding it to day 20. And then the 52 is a lot more self-reliance and sharing and journaling. Okay. And so, of course, somebody can do, okay, I've got 20 days and I don't have time to journal it now. You could go back and then pick up and go, right, but in 40 days, I'm going to go, and I've got my diary, and I'm going to go and sit in an island and look at what happens. So there's ways that people can go into their self-study that fit their own sovereign timekeeping. Okay. Anybody else? Cool. And just to let you know, we have early bird prices available now, and we have got some bursaries available. I know one bursary for one of the versions has been taken, but yeah, there are still bursaries available and things like that. So those who come in, we're limiting the amount of bursaries. We can't just give them to everybody. We have a lot of costs to cover and things like that, and it's a lot of time making this and pulling this together. So, but that you just know that those are available right now for any of you who are feeling the call. Any more? Okay, well, thank you for joining, and yeah, big times. It's really phenomenal what's going on. I mean, I know that we know, but it's just like kind of very close to something very big. And I think a lot of us know, like I'm very grateful to be making these transmissions, but if you ask me other stuff, like I don't really know. Like I'm just kind of here in a little zone, working very hard in a little zone, being the thing. But there's lots of stuff I don't know about who am I, or all of these things, or what are we becoming. And that's perfect. It's really good. And I think a lot of us have this ineffable sense of really not knowing. And that's really exciting, because there's a whole like shift ahead. And we're lucky because we know it's coming. That's what's super important about astrology, is that we are on the cusp of something big. None of us know exactly how that will unfold, but having a bit of an head start is super effective. Yeah. So here we go. Cool. So I'm going to send you big hugs, everybody, and yeah, just deep gratitude to you all. Deep gratitude to your higher selves, mono selves, and avatar selves for being with us in this weaving. I hope you're okay. This is going to go up on YouTube for a little while, just so if people couldn't make it, they can hear this. And yeah, just deep gratitude to all these cosmic day keepers across space and time, and also to the ancient ones, to the celestial ones, to the earthbound ones, all these beings in all these realms, and to this opportunity for us to commune with them across space and time, and for us to fully find our sacred groove. So yeah, gracias, gracias, gracias. I hope to see you soon. Bye.